Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Origins, a Creative Journey. I am super excited to announce that today on the show, we have none other than Skinner. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here.
It is awesome to have you. I'm a huge fan. Could you please share with us your origin story? Tell us about your creative journey.
Well, I mostly got really into creativity when I was like a small child in the 80s, I think, early 80s. I was like drawing a lot of dinosaurs. I was really fascinated by Ray Harryhausen films. I was super inspired by King Kong and monsters and dragons and demons and dinosaurs. And I saw a poster because Beastmaster, the movie, was coming out. And I saw the poster and I was like, I kind of like lost my mind. And so I had like a really strong penchant or, pull towards fantasy stuff or otherworldly stuff. But around that time also was, I think my mom and dad were very like tumultuous people. There was a lot of conflict. It was a like not the super chill place to live for a little kid. So I found myself more and more and more in the fantasy world to try to maintain a kind of control or over something, or like kind of a safe place to go to, or just like a place where I could feel some agency around my life. So I was deep in the fantasy zone. And then over the years, you kind of just do art, you draw Godzilla, and then people go, "Oh, you're really good at that." So then you kind of get this encouragement as time goes on. But lots of kids are discouraged very quickly. And I was, I don't know if I was like too hard headed or whatever, but I just kind of was like, yeah, this is what I do. I hate reality. And I hate you too, adults. I hate you all. So I was just sort of like very scared and freaked out. So I would draw a monster. I was very like, every time you see like a movie where it's like a disturbed child and he's just sort of drawing all the time. And then everybody's like, your child drew these horrible things. Something's wrong with them. And they're like, nah, he's fine. Everything's fine. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. That's that kid. Like, whatever. God, I wish I had all these drawings. It was really funny. Like, when I put out my first book, I was going through and finding really old drawings from when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, 9, 10. And it's like Godzilla's destroying things, sharks destroying shit, ninjas shooting things. Like, but then also like for some reason, like muscular men throwing javelins like at other creatures and stuff. And it was just like really funny to look at, where you're like, what's with the javelins, And then I guess they were sort of like spears or something. I don't know, but they had like ropes attached to them. So they could just like throw the javelins, like pull them back, throw them again. But I remember my mom, computers first came out. So I'm 46. So that makes me old and, ready for the afterlife and everything. But so my mom was like, we got this computer at in the office. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. The paper, because the paper is all connected, right? And so it prints out things and there's the holes on the sides. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I said, give me two pieces of paper. And she's like, okay. So I was like, all right. So I pulled the two pieces of paper out. And then I would draw on one side, there'd be like dragons and some would be in the air and there'd be creatures. And then on the other side, they'd be in the water and some would be coming up out of the water on the beach. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So then I said, oh, let me get three pieces. So then I started to make them longer and longer. And I think I did like a 10-page piece of art where it was like air, water, land, like monsters with like drills on their heads going into the ground. And then there was like ones in the air and they're always like shooting like eye beams and breath weapons and all this stuff. And I would do it. And I remember because my mom worked at an OBGYN like office. She was like an office manager. So it was basically like ladies in there. and they're just sort of like, okay, I got some lady business to take care of and everything. But I was in there and I was drawing fucking dragons and monsters and warriors and shit, right? And they're like, so it's just like one little dude bringing this like insane little man energy into this like OBGYN. And I'd be like, could you put this on the wall? And so it was funny because they had like, just my drawings were of this just like childlike mythological violence all over this office, and then after a while they're like, hey, we can't keep putting this up, Skinner. Like, and I was like, what? No, like, come on. They're like, no, like, everybody loves it. All the ladies love your drawings and everything's cool. Like, we need to do something else with these, okay? And then I remember I went to school one day. So in the office, there were these photocopiers. And what was crazy was that like my sister was making photocopies of my drawings and then selling them to other children for like 25 cents or 20 cents. And then she was buying candy and she was getting all this candy. I was like, where'd you get all this fucking candy, dude? I want some candy. Like, she's all, oh, I don't know. I've been saving up or whatever. Anyway, so I was at school one day and I saw a bunch of these kids had papers in their hands. And I was all, what do you guys got there? And they're like, and they were like trying not to show me. And I was all, dude, that's my drawing. Where'd you get that? And I looked at it and I recognized it was photoshopped. And in my mind, I was all, Courtney, you little bitch. And I just knew that she was doing it, and then and I was like, Courtney, what are you doing? Like, stop, she's all, I just want candy so bad. So that was cool. But and I promise I'll get to like modern day shit soon. Please just, okay. Okay. What was funny was that at that time, I was like, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I had He-Man toys. And I was like, He-Man's hella tight. He punches out these freaks. He punches Beastman. He socks up Skeletor. Like Stratos is cool. I like all these dudes. Like they're cool as hell. I thought Beastman was the coolest stuff. But I had like Trap Jaw and Triclops and all this shit. Anyway, and there's this wonderful woman and I just had dinner with her the other night and she's like maybe 75 now or something like that, but her name was Janita. I had never met like a being of such pure joy, this person Janita, and she was so nice. And she got a job at my mom's office after like one of the evil ladies left. There was like an evil lady there that worked there that nobody liked, and I was like, that's fine, whatever. So she was gone and there's a new lady, Janita, who is sweet. And then Janita's like, I have a gift for you. And I was like, oh, really? And she's all, yes, here you go. And it was for my birthday. It was Tila. Do you remember Tila? And I was like, oh, thank you. And she's all, yeah. So maybe you in your little crazy fantasy world, you can have some feminine energy in there too. So it's not psychotic fucking insanity like all the time. Like, like that was the message. I mean, she didn't say that, but that was the message from Janita. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And normally as a child, you'd be like, Tila's going in the garbage, dude. Fuck that. I want eternal war and Satan, like a child. But I was like, dude, this is so cool. Like, this lady really cares about my well-being. That's so cool. Like, and she really wanted me to expand my horizons and stuff. And I was like, okay, hell yeah, Tila. And then I made Tila evil and she wanted to kill too and everything, of course. But like Tila had cool armor, like snakes and stuff all over her. So I was very happy about that. But anyway, so I saw Janita the other night and she's so beautiful and she's such an angel still. I love her so much. So I was an upset child that drew on computer paper, fast forwarding all through high school, depressed, drawing like really demonic shit, like really depressive stuff. I wanted everybody to know that I was upset, but I didn't want to be vulnerable and share my feelings. I wanted them just to look at my drawings and be like, this kid is really fucked up. We should give him some love or something. Anyway, so then after that, it went and went and went. I tried to get really good. I was into comics. I was into all this stuff, but I never felt good enough to draw comics. It's like, It's really difficult. And the way that I was experiencing myself was that I was very uncertain about who I was at my core because I did not know how to come from my fantasy world where I was comfortable with who I was to the real world and be like, I thought that if I really shared who I was as a person, I would be very quickly like rejected. So I had a lot of shame around who I was as a person. And I just felt like kind of like if anybody really recognized who I was, they would be like, you're really gross and yucky and you're ugly and we don't like you. So I was just sort of hiding a lot and like really not being authentic in the real world. And but then I was like, I got a job when I was like 21 or 22 at an art program teaching art, but more like an art advocate for people with developmental disabilities. And I did that for 9 years, I think, 8 or 9 years. But in that time, I was creative, but I was mostly doing music. I thought that I was going to be in a band, I was going to like go fucking play in Lollapalooza or some shit. So I thought I was going to be a Lollapalooza guy, but it didn't work out. I was terrible at everything I did musically. I could write songs, but I was like, ugh. Anyways, it's very humiliating. So anyway, I was like really into art. Well, I started dating this amazing artist woman who was like an artist with a really strong discipline and practice comics and illustration like in fancy galleries and like the New Yorker and shit and all this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm an artist too. And then she's like, oh yeah, where's the art at, you know and I was like, oh yeah, there's really not that much actually now that you think about it. So then I started to try to get a practice going where I would listen to AM Coast to Coast with her and I would just paint all the time. And then I had an art show at a frozen yogurt shop and what was it? Red Square yogurt. Red Square yogurt. I think it was Capital Yogurt at first, but then they changed their name. Anyway, so I had my paintings in there, but they were these like really crappy paintings on glass. They were like reverse glass paintings and they were terrible. And anytime anybody shows them to me, I go, oh, I want to break it. I want to smash it. I want to throw it away. And so that's the other thing that's funny too, is people will be like, hey, I have a painting I think you did, but you didn't sign it. Could I send it to you? And then I look at it, and if it's good, I go, yeah, I did that. And if it's bad, I say, no, I did not do that. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm having a show. And then I started showing at this art gallery because this was when Juxtapose magazine was at the height of where it was about to be, but like maybe the best sort of version of Juxtapose, which is it would cover tattoo stuff, folk art, horror stuff, graffiti, like tattoo illustration, mural stuff, like weird gallery shit, comics, comic art, all the like basically like working class kind of cool art that's out there, skateboards and everything that really affects us just regular people instead of like maybe the upper echelon of fancy art, fine art galleries where the idea is that you have to be sanctioned by art institutions that are so far away from the working class that it's just really weird. It's like very strange to us. Like we don't get it. It's like, oh, in my day-to-day life, artwork that's in Juxtapose would affect it through video games, films, skateboards, t-shirts, clothing, music, all this stuff, right? Comics, graffiti. But like how affected is our lives by like fine art? It almost never, because it's somewhere else. It's in a gallery or a building somewhere. You have to go see it. It's really weird. I'm not into it. I don't like it and I'll never be that. But anyway, so I was like showing at this gallery called the Toy Room Art Gallery, where my friend John and Craig opened up this little art gallery in Sacramento where I was at. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And it was like inexpensive, cool art. You could just show there. And there was like hot rods and Juxtapose and graffiti artists and, all this crazy shit. And Sacramento at that time was actually pretty cool. It was like a very create art outlaw type weirdo town. It was like a lot of Burning Man shit was really popping off. And I don't know, it was pretty cool. It was very raw. Sacramento Sacramento is a very raw city. It would be even cooler if it was allowed to exist in the way creatively and culturally that it wanted to organically exist. But there's a lot of, I guess, like uppity sort of white people that want it to kind of maintain, I don't know, they want it to be something that it's not, I guess. And that's par for the course. So I start showing in the Toy Room Art Gallery. And so I have a show. I made like a couple hundred paintings there for it. My first show, I sold a ton of artwork. It was really validating. It was very encouraging. And in a lot of ways, it was sort of like a boot camp. It was sort of like, hey, if you just get your shit together and really grind and get to work and you make a bunch of stuff, you could sell it and it will be really cool. And you don't know what's going to happen next, et cetera, et cetera. The owner of the place, John Soldano, was an extremely positive, encouraging person for me. And he was like, dude, you could do this. You could do anything you want, man. Like, I see you working hard, whatever. So I was like 23, maybe, yeah, 23 years old, 24 or something. So I kept having shows there and I started to get some attention in the local newspapers of Sacramento because it's kind of easy to, in a way, if you, it's like Sacramento's kind of small. And I mean, you could just like walk into the building where they make the Sacramento News and Review and then just give them a card and be like, hey, please come to my art show. They'd be like, oh, cool. And then they do. And then they write a review. And then you get another review and then another, it kind of builds from there. Dude, there was no internet. I mean, I think there was, I wasn't using it, but like I had promotional cards for my show, my very first art show. I had all these promotional cards. I would go hand them out at Target. I would go into Target and different places where I would just be living my sort of mundane life in Sacramento. I would look around. I'd be like, let's see if this motherfucker here's got like a Danzig shirt on or something. And then I go, hey man, you like Danzig? You like weird shit? And they'd be like, oh yeah, totally. I'd be like, oh cool. I'm having an art show. Check it out. And then like I would just sort of like walk around, give my flyers out to people and hope that they would come and stuff and everything. So, I mean, that's an completely unheard of in today's day and age, but I'll tell you, it was actually really fun. I just like ambush people and be like, hey, look at this. You want to come to this? I did that for a while and I was doing good in Sacramento, but I was, for the first time in my life, I felt like I had kind of like a directional impulse, I guess. And I was like, okay, I could draw like this. I could paint. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Juxtaposed magazine. I'm reading Super 7. I'm reading Giant Robot. I'm reading, While You Were Sleeping. I'm reading like everything. Like I'm going through this shit, right? I'm like, I'm studying this stuff. I'm like, dude, this is so exciting to me. It seems possible, right? It seems like, okay, I mean, this is like very, very exciting for a person who has drawn weirdo shit their whole life. But I never really knew what could happen with it. And like, to be honest, traditionally speaking, if you're kind of a weird fantasy artist, illustrator person, it was like you had a couple of avenues you could go: comics, album art, editorial stuff, all this shit, right? Or yeah, it was very slim stuff. And Juxtaposed magazine and all these magazines that would pop up, in my opinion, were kind of like the only doorway through. It was like if somebody liked what you did and put you in this magazine, all of a sudden you were killing it. You were pumped. It was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of notoriety here. Maybe I can secure this as a lifestyle. I started doing John Soldano was like, hey, let's drive down to San Francisco and hang out in San Francisco and try to meet the people at the Juxtapose offices and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Okay, let's do this. So I'd go down there and met them and I'd bring little pieces like paintings to give away and little thing, be like, hey, remember me, whatever. And it was really cool to kind of, I don't know, just see like, oh, this is how this is, like networking, like talking to somebody, then they start to remember you a little bit, and everything. And it's a lot different than if you're online, like I don't think, honestly, I mean, I'm pretty hard on myself. Like I think I'm pretty like easy to forget in a lot of ways, but that's also just kind of a low self-esteem issue. But like when I go online on Instagram and stuff, I just see artists and I'm just like, all these artists are better than me and they all give themselves more time to just be like creative. Like I'm doing all this administrative bullshit now because I'm trying to make movies and all this fucking delusional shit. But I was like, okay, this is cool. So I started to come down and I'd get little, like get my little foot in the door here and there and all this stuff. And then I remember at one point, so I had to put my art career on hold when for a little bit because I had to build a house. I built a house in Sacramento and it was like this artist resident, thing. So we had to build this house. It took like 17 months. It was a nightmare. I couldn't do shit. So then after that, though, I had a big house and I had a big art studio and stuff. So I just started going for it. And I started to drive down. So I would work with people with disabilities during the day. And then I would come home at night and then I would look online or look like to see if there was any kind of drink and draws and stuff going on in San Francisco at the Minna Gallery or any of these different things. I would just drive down. I would drive from Sacramento to San Francisco like a couple of times a week, actually, and almost like in a kind of hilarious way, pretending that I lived there, like just being like, "Hey, I'm here," like, "Hey, remember me?" Whatever. But the good news is that I was actually doing a ton of art and I was socially engaged. So it really helped. People were like, "Oh, hey, what's up? It's that guy. Cool, whatever." And then around like, 11 o'clock at night, like I would drive back home and then I'd get home at like 1 or 2 in the morning and sneak into bed, try not to wake up the wifey. And I don't know, it was really cool. And then I started to have shows at like, I remember I was like, one time I put together with my friend Aaron Winters, we put together this promotional like Bible of all these artists from Sacramento. And so each page had like our art and our name and like what we did and all this stuff. And it was like a little pamphlet, but it was beautiful. It was really well done. So I just drove down one day, went to the Minna Gallery and said, "Hey, can we have an art show here?" And the guy was like, "Dude, we just had somebody back out 2 months from now. We have somebody to back out. We'll do this art show." And I was like, wow. And so I called all my friends. I was like, "Hey, we got the art show. It's going to happen." They're like, "What, dude? You fucking nuts." Like, I was like, "Yeah, it was just an accident." But it took me going there and putting myself in a position to maybe having something positive happen. So then I had this art show. It was really cool. It was big. A lot of people came. It was really cool and positive. But I was like, on to the next shit. I needed something good to happen, right? So a couple weeks later, our show is still up. And so I see that graffiti artist Bigfoot is having a show that Scion is putting on. Scion, they went from trying to do juxtapose stuff to get young people to buy Scions to like doing heavy metal shit. It was pretty funny. Everybody was getting money from Scion for a while. It was pretty great. Anyway, so I went down to his art an art opening before this Scion. Oh, it was a different. No, no, no. It was an art show with him and this other guy, Rambo, from New York, right? So they had an art show, and I went down there. I was like, I'm gonna meet Bigfoot, and I'm gonna ask him if he wants to have a two-person show because I do monsters, he does Bigfoot, so it kind of seems like it would fit. Like maybe this would be cool. So I see him like extremely wasted. He's like super fucked up, and I'm like, dude, he's not gonna remember shit. So what I did though was like I made a little painting and wrapped it up as a gift for him, right? And I was like, well, he's fucked up. So then I was like, I'm not even going to try to talk to him, whatever. I just put the painting, the little gift, in his pocket while he's too fucked up. And then I drive back that night and I'm like, well, that didn't work, whatever. Anyway, I get a phone call the next day. It's him. And he's like, "What's up, dude?" Like, "Oh, like what?" He's like, "Thanks for the painting." I was like, "Oh, you found it." He's like, "Oh yeah, dude." I was like, "How'd you get my number?" And he's like, "Well, one of my friends told me that they saw this art like this at the Minna Gallery. So I went there. I saw your stuff was up there. I asked them for your phone number. And so I called you." And I was like, "Wow, that's cool, man. How's it going?" He's like, "Dude, I really love what you do. Do you want to be in this Scion show with me, this big show, like whatever, whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds good. That sounds great." And then, like, a month later, I had some cool paintings and stuff. So I put them up in there. And it was just sort of like, it was just like a lot of little steps. This is almost like a humiliating anecdote because it's from such a time that is past, like galleries, getting money from promotional shit, getting all this stuff, like, Scion, fucking whatever. This time is over. Okay, way over. And so I have the show with him. It was cool. I was like, this is really great. And everybody's like, that was cool. You did that. I was like, but so it kind of like built up. And then I think what was happening was, so me and Christy, my wife at the time, we were taking care of her dad too. He was really sick. He passed away, but we were taking care of him. And I remember that I was painting a lot of these paintings for these group shows and like trying to like really, get my momentum up while I was at his house, making sure he was like doing okay and he was all right. I was with Christy, and it was like this really weird like life where a lot of exciting stuff was happening, but I was also extremely scared he was going to die or something was going to happen. But my friend Gabe Scott, who worked at the Minna Gallery, was like, hey, let's have a solo show of just you. Because at the time, I had a solo show at the Upper Playground in Sacramento. And I was like, okay, maybe Upper Playground. So by this time, Juxtapose is a little more on the like fashion brandy shit, and it's not as raw. It's sort of like you realize that like the editor of Juxtapose owns Upper Playground. So he's putting people who do shirt designs for him in Juxtapose. It's like payola, you know what I mean? And so I was like, well, I'll have it, if I can get into Upper Playground, maybe that will help me get into other galleries and stuff too. I still lived in Sacramento. It was really difficult. I was grinding my fucking ass off 16 hours a day, painting, drawing, just like as much as I could. Then Gabe at the Minute Gallery was like, we want to give you a solo show here. And I was like, okay. And he's like, dude, I think I talked Juxtapose into letting me write a story about you. So I was like, this is it, right? Like, grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, getting into this magazine. And so I celebrated it was me and Christy and her dad, who was really, really sick, but we had Mongolian barbecue and we were celebrating together and everything. And then I started getting ready for my solo show. It was huge. It was amazing. And then after that, it was sort of like everybody kind of saw there was like hundreds of paintings. I had sculptures everywhere. I had giant severed heads hanging from the ceiling. I made these giant D&D dice that were hanging. I had like creatures and wheelchairs all around with walkers, and I had giant swords I welded, and I had all these businessmen creatures stabbed into the wall. It was truly insane. In my band, I was in a thrash metal band with Christy. She was the drummer, and my friend Dan was the bass player. We played the opening. It was like totally nuts. It kind of like finally felt like people could see that I was like maybe like a really hardworking and desperate person to try to get out of my fucking mundane life. But the truth is, like, I saw early on that Alex Pardee was in Juxtapose, and then he got on the cover, and he lived in Sacramento, and he was doing all this stuff for Tower. And then he moved to not San Francisco, but I can't remember, down here in the Bay. He was really pushing super hard, and I was like, damn, dude, if this guy could do it, I think like maybe there's more of a chance for me. There's a chance that I could do this. But I tried to bring Sacramento with me, but it didn't work that good. And I just don't think anybody was as desperate as I was. And so I was in the magazine, I started having shows, but what I realized very quickly, and my next show after that was at White Walls and the shooting gallery. And I was having shows in, big art galleries and museums in Europe and universities in America. All this stuff was happening, right? But it kind of weirdly enough, I feel like all this stuff was happening to me. If that stuff happened now, it would look like I was doing way more. But like back then, it was like I would just be like telling Christy and my father-in-law, like, hey, I got a show at the university in fucking Missouri or whatever, and they'd be like, cool. But like it wasn't like there was no impact. This was way before Instagram where you could be like flexing all crazy. I kind of realized that having shows at galleries was not as good a choice as I thought it would be, because I was doing extremely detailed psychedelic nightmare art that was very much like an embodiment of my sort of feeling of global dread, feeling like the world is 2010, right? So I'm like, climate change is getting weird. I'm, watch a fucking documentary about shark finning or something. And then I would just be like in a depression for, weeks, because I realized like I can't control anything in my life. It feels like I can't control anything in the world in a positive way. I'm feeling very small. I would push myself into trying to succeed as an artist because it was the only thing that I felt like I even an iota of a chance to control or to manipulate or something. By putting, it was like the more energy and time I put into that, the more I saw come back from it. So it's all this sort of trauma informed motivation where it's like I want validation, I want acknowledgement and to be recognized, but at the same time I'm also kind of deeply hiding who I am because I'm afraid that everybody will think I'm fucking lame or something, which I didn't have enough therapy then. Now I got the therapy. I realize I don't care if you think I'm lame, dude. All I care about is fucking if I can make my stupid monster art. I kind of stopped having art shows because I was doing that kind of weird ass art in the middle of the goddamn street art boom at the crescendo of fucking Banksy and Shepard Fairey and all this shit. And everybody, it's all, and it's like, if you did street art, it was like, you're in a gallery, you're in the fanciest gallery ever. It's like, doesn't even matter, right? Exit through the gift shop, all this stuff. And I'm just like, well, guess I'll see myself out. And I did murals and I did tons of crazy shit and all my installations and all this stuff. But to be honest, I was just coming at it from a different angle. I was coming at it from this, like, it wasn't a celebratory angle I was coming from like a kind of concerned angle about everything. I'm very concerned. I also think that I felt like I had to somehow be cool or something. And so I'm like, yeah, I do like occult art and all my messages are like hidden and all this stuff. And it's like nobody has time for that shit, because by the time you get into the upper echelon of art galleries, the kind of depressing truth is people are not buying that art because they're like, wow, I really like you and your esoteric messages of global dread, Skinner. You're so smart and interesting. They're just like, can I make money off of this as an investment later? And so I'm just like, oh, probably not. Not for me. No, probably not. I mean, unless I die. I mean, if you're younger than me, then that's cool. You'll probably live longer, but I don't know. Probably not. But like if you like it, you should buy it. So I'm terrible because I don't exist in the way that I should be if I wanted to like climb the ladder. I'm climbing it down. I'm like, everybody's climbing up. I'm like, nah, I gotta go down, dude. I'm going down. But the thing is that I recognize, because I'm at an early age, my survival mechanisms were very strong and very honed very sharply because I was looking for patterns in things. So I would look for a pattern or some kind of, I was in a coldly insect-like analytical way. I was trying to figure out how I could survive the next thing that was coming. And that came in handy in navigating the art world, I guess, for better or for worse, because I realized like I'm not going to fight this street art wave. I'm just not. I'm not going to do it. So then I just started doing stuff with bands, doing illustration. I was like, well, I'll do painting still and have art shows and stuff. People aren't, but it's like, again, if you make blue collar art, but it's too expensive for blue collar people, then you're going to have a lot of artwork left at your fucking house in your studio. It's going to be clogging up the joint. I would make prints and everything and all this stuff. Understanding that pattern, I realized like, okay, I just need to have an online store and sell shirts and prints and stuff like that because that's accessible and it's nice and people can get it. I did that and then realized that now I had no time to really do art as much as I wanted to. And it kind of just, I felt very scared that I was going to not be remembered because I'm not having shows at galleries and stuff. It's very like weird balance of being overworked constantly, but somehow making it look effortless for the internet, I guess, or something. And I was just very depressed also. It was really hard. So I moved from Sacramento to Oakland, and then this was 12 years ago. Now I'm down here and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm having like my online thing, but I start making toys. I started doing a lot of toys, vinyl figures and toys. And then I started sharing a art studio with Alex Pardee and Dave Correa at Zero Friends. And it was this back room that was really cold and there was dust everywhere. So I was like, all right, well, I got to get out of here. I went to share a studio with Frank Kozik in San Francisco for a couple years. And I learned a lot from him and we became really good friends. And it was amazing. And I started doing more posters and rock posters and stuff. And I did an album cover for the band Mastodon, which was really cool. Then Mastodon asked me if I want to do a music video, which was very exciting and also new and scary. And I did that. And then it kind of opened up like this idea that maybe I could do more storytelling. And so, I'm going to start writing short treatments. So I started writing short treatments, and I made another music video with this amazing production company called Hey Beautiful Jerk. Is the High on Fire Black Plot video, which is like all animated and stuff. I'm realizing that like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel secure in my skills. I don't feel like I'm as good an artist as I want to be. I don't believe in art galleries really. I see them as it's too difficult to maintain my end with them and feel like I can get any money or any energy reciprocated from them. And so I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's happening. I tried to get a show on Adult Swim. I had a special lined up that I was going to do with them. And then I shut down my web store. I stopped all the online stuff. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was fulfilling everything myself. And then so having to go fulfill it. And then I would do my art on the side. And I was just unhappy doing that and just kind of constantly in fear financially about I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing, whatever. So I'm hopping from lily pad to lily pad like a little psychotic frog. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best long-term way that I can make money and be creative and be myself and have some support and have an infrastructure. I was like, well, I've been doing a lot of stuff with Adult Swim. I've did murals for them. I've done bumps. I've done tons of shit with them. They seem to like me. It's going okay. So then I shut down my web store after they go, hey, we want to give you this special. Let's do it. I created a pitch Bible. I researched how to make a pitch Bible and a pitch deck. I sent it to them. They said, we love it. So the first thing I ever make gets accepted. Then promptly is not accepted after I get a green light, right? So I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I shut down my web store. And so I'm not making any I'm not making any money. My web store is shut down. I have nothing. And they're like, yeah, we just don't understand the script. It's weird. We don't know. We don't know what to do with it, whatever. I basically go into this insane depression and I just realized that up to this point had nonstop wins, nonstop. Just if I work hard, if I work so hard and I pay my dues and I do my best, every door is going to open, right? And this didn't happen for this one. And I started to have this sort of existential meltdown where I was like, the days of me working hard and then the doors opening is over, because that's how I derived any kind of self-worth. I'm a chronically depressed person. I had a lot of unaddressed trauma and unaddressed mental health issues. I extremely mentally ill problems my whole life. I'm a smudge of a man. So anyways, but I'm not anymore. I'm feeling better now. This happens and I'm like, oh, and then I kind of basically do this rebuilding of I start exercising a lot. I start doing a lot of that shit. I start going to therapy. I start doing all this stuff. And I realize that so much of the motivation of everything that I've done has been from this place of trying to prove myself or trying to get through the door, that trying to, I mean, weirdly enough, yeah, it's like, my mom and my dad seemed a little too busy to notice me and like kind of like the depth and the breadth of who I am as a person. And I felt unseen. Most of my life, I felt unseen and unreceived by them. And I realized that that took me as far as it could. It took me as far as it possibly could. And I had to, when you like step on the gas and you just rev on the gas for a long time, then the engine burns out. That's what happened with me. And so I realized that I needed to go to a place of pulling the entire house apart inside of myself, pull every brick apart. What is all this shit? Why is it here? And how should I build this person back that I want to be? And I'm still doing it, but the thing is that I will always have to wrestle with like, how am I going to make money? But if I'm avoiding the part of myself that is not the authentic person who just wants to create in the way they want to create, and the person who wants to write the stories they want to write, and the person that wants to express the expressions that they have, and like the really true authentic self, then it's none of it's even worth it. And the damage that I've done to myself, I think, in a lot of ways, by kind of like hiding parts of myself that I just felt like were unacceptable to the world, are ironically the parts that are the most special, actually. And that I think that everybody experiences this in some ways, because we live in a nightmare, like a apocalyptic beauty pageant where everybody's not beautiful enough, nobody's doing good enough, all this shit. But every time I get further and further down the path of understanding myself and knowing why I want to do what I do, and what is it about the transformative nature of art and creativity that's giving me liberation, and the liberation to be exactly the kind of version of myself that I want to be, which is somewhere closer to the kind of empty-minded kid who's drawing on computer paper, just endlessly, just it's free, it's just happening, it's whatever. That's the person that I'm most looking to liberate. And I think that the actual skill set that I've developed and the discipline that I've developed can mesh with that creativity to do something really like beautiful and authentic. So when I write my stories, I realize, like in the Skin Crawl magazine and like, a lot of these music videos, and everything I do is like totally interwoven with this sort of Jungian psychological emotional journeys and stuff like that. And it's all a deeply personal intersection of like what I'm going through at that time. It's like I sometimes I laugh so much because when I write my stories and I write these stories, I'm like, okay, they all have a lot of similar themes, which is like alienation, feeling like an outsider, wanting to connect, wanting to find people that are weird like me to connect to, justice being met, the journey of understanding oneself, alleviating one's darkness so that the world doesn't have to carry it for you, and trying to find a way to connect, because disconnection has sort of been my overarching theme of the reason I suffer so much is because I'm so disconnected. The art journey for me went from feeling like, ooh, there's something beautiful here for me to belong to finding out that there's a lot about it that I don't connect to, and then finding the part of it that I do connect to, which ironically is just myself and like my own process and stuff. And we're kind of at the dead end of Western civilization in a lot of ways, with art and creativity and like how it's consumed, how it's really like how it's perceived and what the value is on it and all this stuff. So it kind of just for me feels like even more now than ever, people should really just go extremely deep into what it is that they love. Anyways, that's my long-winded ass story. I don't know what's happening now. I'm trying to finish my movie, Shrine of Abominations, which is all about trauma and mythology. The board game is done, coming out in October, November. Working on a short film called Dungeon Crawl, with a bunch of people. I got this video game we're gonna do a Kickstarter for soon called Flesh Haunted Lords. I'm gonna be at Monster Palooza. I don't know. So we'll see each other there. The truth is, like, I don't even really know. It's like me kind of like talking about this stuff is gonna help anybody, because the way that oh, it's helping you. Well, that's good. That's really beautiful. It was like a time just before the internet kind of took over where Instagram, I mean, hilariously enough, I will say this. I was like, I'm doing all this illustrative fucking shit, crazy, like whatever. Instagram kind of became the platform for illustration, painting, but like in a way that was never as popular as it is through Instagram. Like, you notice that? Like, we're living in the golden age of illustration. But like, part of me kind of laments the fact that like I was doing all this stuff before Instagram happened, because I'm like, everybody sees what I do now. Like, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you just draw like that or whatever. Cool, cool. But I'm like, no, I was doing insane installations and sculptures and crazy shit. It was like highly influenced by Twist and Beautiful Losers, and all this shit was totally crazy. But like, I feel like all that stuff sort of lost to the mists of time. But that's all right. That's okay. Anyways, that's my story. I love you guys.
Holy shit, Skinner. One, I just love you, man, and your art. And as another monster creator, I've seen your career and like so many of the things you talked about of like the 111 Minute Show, being in Juxtapose, working with Alex and Dave at Zero Friends. Like, I've just been a fan from afar for so long. So it's super cool to hear about that. But I think part of the reason why I'm such a huge fan of you and, we mentioned Instagram and you sort of descending the ladder of capitalism, though, is the work that you've done on yourself and the vulnerability at which you're willing to talk about this stuff because you're like, oh, I don't know if this is helpful, but I don't think many creatives get to see the full picture of what it means to actually to do this as a living. And I think especially we don't get to see the lows that come along with the highs of someone who has achieved the career that you have, because I've always looked to you and been like, fuck, man, I'd kill for Skitter's life. Like, he gets to paint on murals and get flown around everywhere, and he's in all these fucking galleries and making these crazy installations and making films, and now he has a board game,
Yeah.
which if you can still back, everyone needs to back Realm Runners, by the
No,
way.
I think that that is the thing. There's been so many lows. There's been lows in my life and during my art career stuff, that even when things are going really well, but lows that I just never share, because like, if I'm having a hard time on something, or if I'm like struggling with some shit or whatever, like, I don't feel like it's worth posting about unless I can make it help people. Like, I feel like, well, I don't want to just be like, hey, I'm really bummed, man, like this sucks, like shit sucks, whatever. But if I could be like, and here's the lesson that I learned, before the pandemic, I had, because remember, I had that drawing show. Remember that I had a drawing show with Super Deluxe, and then I was working on a virtual reality thing with people that worked at Google. It was like this Middle Earth, or like this or a Hollow Earth virtual reality thing with Sasquatches and alien civilizations and shit. I had another movie, like an anthology film I was working on. I had like 5 insane things going, and I was like, hell yes, let's go. And one by one, they all ended. They got canceled. It didn't work. It didn't whatever. So like, all this shit that I had been working on for years ended. And I wasn't going to be like, hey, life be life, and like, this sucks, or whatever, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I fucking pay my dues. If I've sucked the devil's dick, dude, now look at me, bro. Nothing. I got nothing. But like, I remember I had a phone call when I came back from Sundance Film Festival right before the pandemic. I had a phone call with HBO, like the head of animation at HBO. I sent him this, thing I wanted to do and all this shit. And I sent him like the links to everything I've done. And he just kind of was like, okay, so that, we're doing whatever. And I was just sort of feeling like, this conversation isn't going anywhere. And then, so did you see what I sent? He's like, yeah, yeah. So, but this guy who's doing this show Primal, like he's amazing and blah, blah, and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll talk to you later. And he's like, yeah, man, we come down to LA. Let's hang out. Let's have some drinks and stuff. I was like, no, that's not happening. And it ended. And I kind of was like, you know what? I don't really like that person is not bad. That's not a bad person that I talk to. That is somebody who's doing their job in an industry that is full of people who are doing their jobs just like that. And I am a weird little art man, and I don't need to be going and having this conversation anymore. So at that moment, I realized, you know what? I need to have my own back. Nobody's going to pick me up out of the mud. Nobody's going to be like, look at this little guy. He's a little diamond. We're going to put him front row. We're going to let him do his thing. So I just was like, fuck it. And I just started writing out all my stories, making comics. The pandemic hit and I started really grinding on all this other shit. I was like, I don't know how long this is going to go, but I'm going to do my comics. I'm going to write all my stories. I have like so many stories I've written, so many tastes. Like I had to go forward, and now all this stuff that I'm doing is coming out. But the thing that I'm most excited about is like just writing stories and having them, the transformative nature of these tales, like be out in the world. And I just want to connect with people through that if I can. And I don't know. But yeah, man, I eating a lot of shit, buddy. I'm a shit eating mofo, dude. I like it, man.
Because I relate to this 1,000%. By the way, Merman was the best of all the He-Man.
Oh, you like Merman? Merman.
See, Rick's with
I
me.
like Merman. It's cool, but dude, Beastman had that sick ass chest plate
Yes,
thing.
he did. And I bet there's a lot of people who realize this. Like, and I get it. Like, you bust your fucking ass. Because if I just bust my fucking ass, something's gonna happen. And I'm just gonna bust it, and something's gonna happen. And I'm 50 plus years old. There's a point when you go, holy shit, busting my ass ain't gonna do it no more.
Yeah.
And you've reached it. And which is to me the big level. Like, fuck you. You don't get it, fine. Fuck you. I'm gonna do it for me.
Yeah. Well, I think
You've reached the me point.
yeah. I think, the thing is that there's some very realistic things that you need to do. Like, I love doing crazy, crazy psychedelic alien ass shit, weirdo, fucking nutty ass stuff, right? Okay. I also realize that it takes a long time to do that stuff. And you also have to figure out how to like monetize it. And sometimes that's kind of hard and all this stuff. So there's a very realistic thing that you got to do sometimes. Like I paint these monster bottles, I sell prints, I sell little baby paintings, I do all this stuff to like, because I know that I can do it, I could sell them, and then I can make money to pay my rent and stuff so that I can continue down my alien path. But like, I think that a lot of people, everybody has to do stuff they don't want to do. If you're a farmer, you don't just wake up and go, oh, sweet corn, it's here now. Like you got to farm. You got to farm and shit. Like you got to do stuff you don't want to do. And a lot of times the stuff you don't want to do is the most necessary part of your growth. So you're going to end up knowing more about yourself by going into that shit. That's what the Jungian psychologists call the shadow of yourself, which is like the part of yourself that you're like, ooh, I want to avoid that. And for me, a lot of times it's like sitting down and doing like a bunch of bottles or a bunch of small paintings and stuff. Like I resent it because I'm like, you know what? I just want to be free. I want to be fucking Miles Davis. I want to be like fucking Evil Knievel out here doing my crazy shit, right? But if I can go into gratitude, right? And I can go, you know what? If I wasn't doing this, what the fuck would I be doing? I'd be eating more shit at the farm. And so like the thing is like I've dug ditches, I've done a shitload of jobs I didn't like, getting paid under, less than I deserve, whatever. If the worst thing that can happen to me is that I have to like sit down and listen to Black Sabbath and paint bottles and draw with my friends all like day or whatever. That's fine. That's actually really great. It's that I know, and this to me is a problem with more like the economic system, is that I know that I'm capable of more, and I know that everybody is capable of more, but they are held back and suppressed by economic consequences of like not, like farming and stuff. So until we get to that Star Trek level where you can just get your food out of the computer. Dude, imagine that would be so crazy. Just be all computer corn dog. Be like corn dog from 1830. It's like that would be the tightest part. Be like the World's Fair corn dog, 1830 computer with mustard. That would be so sick. But anyway, I just think that I'm like really lucky. And I think that the more that I am at peace with my emotional struggles and my existential struggles and everything, is that I want other people to feel normalized. I want them to I just want to be like, listen, shit ain't easy for me. I am far from perfect. I am a very flawed, I am a very cynical little guy, but I'm doing my best to help myself. So, I mean, that's kind of the elephant in the room, right? Is everybody's kind of bummed and everybody's struggling and everybody's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to ignore that for people. So, anyways, I'm kind of going on and on, but
I love that, Skidder, because I mean, that's what I found in some of the creative coaching that I do is just, or just any of the coaching I've done, is that everyone is scared.
Mhm.
Everyone doesn't feel enough. Everyone wants to belong. And we all think that we're the only ones that feel that way. And so nobody talks about it. So nobody realizes that, oh, I'm not alone. When we all feel isolated, we all feel scared, we all feel like the world's coming to an end, and why even bother with like the imminent apocalypse that we all face. But I think it's also shows, it's a testament to your character to actually say that. And I think that's why there's so many people that are drawn to the stories you're telling and the worlds you're building.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Rick. That's really sweet.
Skinner, this has been super insightful. I think there's so much people can gain from what you've shared. But, you mentioned that kind of on your ascent, very different times. We live in Instagram hellscape, whatever you want to call it right now. What piece of advice would you have for other people who are looking to discover themselves through a creative practice?
I think navigating the pressures of, you know, not feeling like enough, not feeling like you're doing good, not feeling like you're hitting it right, not feeling like whatever. It is a not linear progression, and life in no way it makes any sense at all. Like my shit was like this. You know what I mean? Like I'm fucking, it looks like I'm like, it was just like, ooh, but it was like, it was like some like falling apart roller coaster or something. But I think that the thing that I'm noticing the most that I feel like is a really good sign is that like young people, young artists get recognized now for their authenticity. Ironically, we're in the sort of tech world where a lot of shit feels inauthentic. So that even makes it more special if you're authentically yourself. I mean, I read comics and zines from young creators and autobiographical comics, and I see young artists here and there, all this stuff. And I'm blown away by the authenticity and the emotional vulnerability of it. It just pulls you forward. It just pulls you in. You're like, yes, I'm a fan of you. Or like, you're messy as hell, but I like you. Like, this is incredible. Because emotional vulnerability is a currency that cuts through, I don't know, like our kind of contemporary hypnosis that we just get up, we gotta grind, gotta fucking do this, gotta drink coffee, gotta go on Instagram, gotta go here, it's like we're really just grinding out our life every day with too much information. So if you're authentic and you're vulnerable and you are just who you are yourself, that carries so much more weight in a world that's this fucked up and inauthentic. And I've been struggling with it because lately I've been really wondering how much of my need to feel connected and to feel emotionally vulnerable with people, I haven't been kind of lazy about establishing better and stronger relationships with people in real life, especially with men. And then I'm just like, well, I'll just share something online about how I'm sad and that will be a substitute. And it's like, not. So I've just been kind of very avoidant and very pulled back and putting my cat down to sleep yesterday. I've had a lot of death. My wife's mom passed away. I've had a lot of like friends that have killed themselves in the last couple of years. And I've just like, I think that I'm just realizing that the person I want to be and the way I want to walk through this world is seeing in real time what my connections are and feeling the real life feeling of connection, even though it's scary because it's in real life. But if you're online, you're kind of like, being authentic and stuff. People just go, hey, we love you. You're great. Like, that's cool. I mean, every once in a while, someone will be like, you're a beta male or whatever, like whatever, dude, go cry into fucking, go cry into a boot, bitch, or whatever. But like, I think like in real life that I've just been putting a lot more work into connecting with people that are more trustworthy and that like I feel more safer and connected to. And that's taking a lot of pressure off of my artwork to do the heavy lifting for my emotional state, because I will lean into my art as like the reason why anybody cares about me. And I go to these groups, I go to these like men's groups for these dudes that are like dads and they're like trying to be better men and stuff. And so I go to these, I don't have any kids, so I'm kind of, and they're like older dudes. None of them know what I do for a living. None of them give a fuck. They're like old black dudes and here in Oakland, and they just are sweet. And they're just like, thanks for sharing yourself with us. Thanks for being with, and I'm just like, this is cool. Like to feel like I'm healing the wound of being an outsider in real life instead of looking to be accepted online, which is like we're all sort of trying to be connected, but we're totally alone. It's just not real. I would say after this long ass monologue, this is what I would say. If you're a young artist and you want to feel connected and authentic and good about your art and all this stuff, you have to develop that in yourself, not just alone with your artwork, but like with people. And so creating like cool salons where you have like different artists around, you're hanging out, you're listening to fucking sketches of Spain, you're chilling, you're drinking red wine, you're laughing, you're smoking a joint, you're painting, you're drawing, all this stuff. And then you're having like the resonant social connection that makes you feel good and that you want to share with them, you want to be connected with them. But it's all about intentionally existing with intention. And it's hard because I like to be alone a lot.
Skinner, I wish we weren't out of time because you and I can relate you so much better than you could possibly imagine, because I just like to sit at my desk and draw all day and fuck the world. But we have to end this.
You gotta get some tight bros, some sensitive bros.
I got Rick.
Oh,
Where can listeners find you?
at the Art of Skinner on Instagram or at the YMCA on fucking Tuesday, Thursdays, 7 to 8. 6 to 8. That's where I post stuff. I'm off everything else. I'm just burnt. You can get on my YouTube channel, Art of Skinner, if you want. Wait, I had a backer kit. So if you look up Realm Runners, you could still, I think you can like pre-order Realm Runners still. But then Flesh Haunted Lords will be coming up soon, but that's, we still got to develop that, get the page going and everything. But yeah, it's going to be tight. It's going to be sick. But then also Shrine of Abominations is being edited right now. It's looking insane. This will be the greatest monster film of all time. It's truly, I can't believe it. It's crazy. It's like if you took a long drawing on computer paper and you turned it into a movie, that's what it would be.
This is how we usually end the show, with giving our guest a final word. So is there anything that you want to just share with the listeners? And thank you, Skinner. This has been awesome.
Of course. I would say having compassion for other people if you can reserve your emotional reaction to stuff, because everybody for the most part is doing their best. Everybody is sort of a casualty of a mutilated social conditioning, and everybody is sort of surviving the best they can. And we don't live in a culture that has a lot of mental health or therapy forward interests. So most of the people that you see walking around that are adults are like wounded children in adult bodies. So you just be patient, don't get wrapped up in their drama, just relax and be sweet.
Thank you for joining Rick and myself on another episode of Origins, a Creative Journey, a Designer Con production. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, download and listen to us every place you get your favorite podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Origins, a Creative Journey, all one word. Drop us an email for thoughts, ideas, or maybe somebody you'd like us to interview at dconpodcast@gmail.com. And make sure you join us in Las Vegas for DesignerCon, North America's premier annual design convention. All the information can be found, including tickets, at designercon.com. Till then, enjoy your own creative journey.